I'm the managing director here at Hartford Stage. We're so honored that the mayor and his team decided to give the annual State of the City address here. This is an incredible arts community, and to be at Hartford Stage really just representing all the incredible arts organizations in Hartford, from Real Artways to Theater Works to CT Improv to the Wadsworth to the Bushnell and on and on. I've left out several. I'm thrilled that we are here. It is so important what's going on in our city, and we want to make the very best of everything here in downtown Hartford. So we're glad you came out on a Monday night. I have the honor then of introducing TJ Clark, the council president, to kick us off this evening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. Thank you for gathering here today. Before we kick everything off, I'd like to introduce our esteemed council colleagues that we have here. Councilwoman Marilyn Rossetti, Councilman John Gale. We have our town and city clerk, Eric Lusa, our council majority leader, Kelly Gilladu, Councilman Alex Thomas, and Councilwoman Marilyn Rossetti. Friends and family, I'm sorry, what did I say? It's the light. Rosado. How did I mess that up? The two R's. As you know, that the mayor, sorry. Start over again. The mayor is required to deliver an annual state of the city, and we are thankful that he has selected this location to do so. And with that said, I would like to introduce our 68th mayor of the city of Hartford, Mayor Arunan.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you to all of the council colleagues for all that you do for our city. Thank you to the Hartford Stage for hosting us. We as a city are so fortunate to have a cultural institution like this in the heart of our city. And it is just one part of an incredible array of institutions that I like to say is among the best of any art scene in any mid-sized city in America. And we're so proud of it. And I will say that is why we created the Office of Arts, Culture, and Entertainment, to be able to connect and foster the incredible art scene we have in the city, and to be able to tell the story of the cultural institutions that make this city special. I also want to say thank you to the Hartford Parking Authority for allowing Hartford residents to park for free tonight. Their board was out there with their staff in vests. They were going above and beyond. And to me, that is indicative of the city and the love that the city employees put into the city. We have incredible city employees all across the city of Hartford. And I just want to, before I start, ask everybody who works for the city of Hartford, would you just stand for a moment if you recognize? Well, as I begin my third state of the city, I've got to start by saying this. It is the privilege of a lifetime to get to serve this city in good times and in difficult times. And Hartford, we have had some very difficult times in the last few weeks. I want to start tonight by talking about Everett Walker and Stephen Jones and the tragic incidents that took their lives. Let me start by saying something that shouldn't be divisive. Their lives mattered. They are sons, they are brothers. In Mr. Walker's case, a husband and father. They are children of God. And we mourn their loss, we search for answers, and we commit ourselves to doing better. As a father and a resident of the city, I'm deeply hurt and angry. And just like this community, I want real accountability. But as mayor of this city, I know real accountability only comes from a process that is transparent. And that is the work that we are doing. I know that too often in the past, you've been asked for your understanding and your patience. Instead, I would simply ask for your confidence that we will make sure that justice is served and that we will work tirelessly to ensure that tragedies like this are prevented in the future. Hartford, the only way through this pain, the only way forward is through this pain. But we must rise to meet this challenge and every challenge together as one Hartford. Together, we must dream of a better and brighter future for our city. And so tonight, I want to spend some time talking about the three key areas in which we have worked over the course of this administration to make priorities to deliver on for our residents, to provide quality housing for all, to build a brighter future for all of Hartford's children, and to ensure safer, stronger neighborhoods all across the city. Let's start by talking about public safety and the threats that come from outside. People often say to me, it must be hard to stay hopeful as a mayor when you've got a tyrant as president. And they're right. But when I feel down, when I feel the weight of the deep divisions of our society and the cruelty and chaos of the Trump administration, I focus on the things that are special to me close to home. I look at my wife, my kids, and each of you who I have the honor to serve. And I'm reminded that despite all of the things that are wrong in America today, there is so much right in the city of Hartford because there is so much fight in the people of Hartford. Make no mistake about it, we will combat Trump's cruelty and chaos with community, compassion, and courage. And we'll do it together. Friends, today is a very special day for me. Not just because I get to give this state of the city to all of you. Today happens to be my mom's 70th birthday. You know, my mom has lived quite a life in her 70 years. It started in a town in the north of Sri Lanka. She was part of an ethnic minority and she was forced to flee her homeland. And she moved to England where she married my dad, but they couldn't legally stay there. And so they moved to Zimbabwe where they had me. And the three of us came to America together. And when we came to this country, our legal status was unknown, our future we were unsure of. But it's because of my parents' sacrifices that I am able to stand here before you as your 68th mayor. And that is just one of the many stories that all together create the fabric of this great city. Interwoven destinies of many people from many continents who came here to Hartford, made this their home, and then worked to make the city special. Sacrifices like those made by Beverly Red, who's here with us today. You can wave there. As many of you know, Beverly is the president of the West Indian Social Club, which brings together the West Indian diaspora and creates a sense of belonging and community here in Hartford. She's also president of the Upper Albany Merchants Association, which helps foster small businesses along the Ave. It reminds me of the sacrifices made by cousins, Diana Virata and Michelle Castro. Can you guys stand up wherever you are? They're here with us tonight somewhere. Oh, there we go. They're the owners. They're the owners of Cafe Amore on Main Street. If you guys have been there, it creates an incredible, now it's getting more applause. It creates an incredible community for our city. And my chief of staff will tell you it's got the best crumb cake in town. Dana and Michelle, I want to thank you for being with us tonight, but for building your story right here in Hartford. Look, Hartford is a city that has literally been built by immigrants. A city that 2 years ago elected an immigrant to be its mayor. We're a city that will never forget what immigrant families mean to our community, or stop fighting for immigrant families to thrive in this city. So to every immigrant who's come here in search of a better life, I want to tell you tonight that in spite of Donald Trump's chaos, you are loved, you are valued. We will fight alongside you every single day. We didn't ask for this. We won't do anything that puts immigrant families in the city in harm's way. But when this fight is at our door, Hartford will always protect its immigrant neighbors, and we will never, ever stand down to ICE. Now, to make truly every single resident safe, we need to continue to build a comprehensive toolbox to use every effort, every tool in our toolbox. one that recognizes that public safety is more than just about fighting crime. It's about making sure we prioritize prevention, we prioritize education, that we prioritize health, mental well-being of the most vulnerable of our residents. That's why we created the city's very first Office of Violence Prevention, so we could better coordinate community response to public safety, addressing violence in creative ways and not just focusing on the aftermath, but working on preventing violence. It's impacted people like Robert Davis, who's here with us tonight. With the help of our city's Office of Violence Prevention, Robert has turned his life around. Through our programs, he's connected with a peer mentor and life coach, was a participant in the Community Violence Intervention and Protection Initiative. And Robert is now a student at Goodwin University. He's got a full-time job, and he's proud to give back to his community. His story is proof to all of us that true community-based violence intervention works. So in the midst of federal cuts to violence prevention programs, we funded a hospital-based violence intervention program to ensure that those who have been impacted by gun violence are met with the resources they need to heal from that trauma immediately, without perpetuating future cycles of violence. We created a resource guide that ensures that those who have experienced trauma have the access to the resources in their neighborhood they need. And we created a public safety dashboard so that all of our residents can access neighborhood level data on public safety. We also gave our firefighters a historic increase after they went a decade without pay increases. We partnered with the Red Cross to install smoke alarms in vulnerable neighborhoods. And we activated cooling and warming centers all year long. So often when we talk about public safety, we focus on the data and the headlines. But I know that for our residents, public safety is about how you feel in your neighborhood. We know that safer communities are ones where residents can afford quality housing, and good education, and where you can walk down the street to visit a restaurant or coffee shop and feel safe doing it. And because we know that economically stronger neighborhoods are safer neighborhoods, we're focusing on bringing in new business and opportunity to every corner of our city. Our neighborhood investment fund includes $5.6 million in transformation of Farmington or Air Avenue corridor, which we announced last December with Speaker Matt Ritter, and provides an additional $5 million in forgivable loans to build small businesses along Albany Ave, Barber Street, Park Street, and Maple Ave. I hear North End residents talk all the time about when Barber Street was a mecca of Black-owned businesses. And my neighbors in Frog Hollow talk about when Park Street was the cultural hub for Puerto Ricans from all over New England. Our small business investment fund is about investing in that incredible potential that neighborhoods already have. Now, you've already probably seen that building coming up, a little slower than we'd hoped, but coming up, I promise, this year on the formerly vacant lot at the corner of Albany and Woodland. You may wonder what's going in there. Well, I'm pleased to announce tonight that a beautiful new sit-down restaurant serving wood-fired soul cuisine called 29 Markle is coming to the north end of Hartford to bring upscale dining and live entertainment with it. Joining us tonight is Chef Damon from 29 Markle. Chef Damon, can you stand?
We're here for right now to support the family of Everett Walker, family of Stevie Jones, the family of Will Bowen, these men that your police have gunned down on your watch, and all you've given us is empty words. All you've given these families is a directive to be silent, to wait, to be patient. All you've done is bring the spirit of these grieving people who lost their loved ones. Police officers, because of his police, because he was human. To be silent, to be patient, to wait for the investigation to play out, when we know what the truth is.
Thank you.
We saw on TV that your officers cruelly themselves into Edward Walker's home. The officers told each other, get in. How they shot his family. How they fired at him. We saw with our own eyes what little you had to say. We
We appreciate your advocacy. We appreciate you guys coming in. I'm gonna be available. I'm gonna be available after this if you want to speak. We've got a public safety forum if you want to come to it on Friday. I want to be clear about something. And look, there's a range of folks who feel a lot of different deep feelings about it. And that is natural. There should be pain. There should be grief. There should be anger. And there are ways in which we can do that as a community. As a city, we are only going to be as strong as the person sitting next to them. And this is a collection of incredibly beautiful and strong people in this room. And my greatest hope, we're not going to sweep anything under the rug, just so you know. The city of Hartford has the most accountable and transparent process when it comes to police shootings of any city in the state. Nothing's getting swept under the rug. There's a process. It might take time. But in the midst of this pain, it is important for us to be able to speak love into that void, to speak hope into that void, and to hold on to each other's hands instead of taking sides. Hold on to each other's hands and draw closer as a city. I was in the middle of, I was about to talk about historic investment in the north end of Hartford. And I know that is a difficult transition to make. But it's really important. It is really important because we know that, as I was starting to say, public safety is about investment in our communities, about investment in our neighborhoods. And if we are not just as urgent in dealing with that investment and creating seeds of hope and investment in our neighborhoods, as we are in dealing with the crime that we see in front of our streets and on the news, then we will never get ahead as a city. And so I hope you guys will give me a little bit of latitude to go back and talk to you about this investment that I'm really getting excited about in the north end of Hartford. Is that okay? Yes. How many of you guys have driven past the beams over there on Albany and Woodland, trying to figure out what's going on? I'm gonna repeat it because in the midst of everything, some people might not have heard it. I'm announcing tonight that a beautiful new sit-down restaurant serving wood-fired cuisine called 29 Soul Cuisine, called 29 Markle, is coming to the north end of Hartford. And they're bringing upscale dining and live entertainment with them. And we're lucky because we have the chef, Damon, from 29 Markle with us. Chef Damon, would you mind standing up? You're out here. And Chef Damon. There he is. There he is. You and your team, welcome to Hartford. Every neighborhood deserves to have a great restaurant. We can sit down and have a good meal and feel like a part of the community. And that's coming to the Ave, thanks to Chef Damon and his team. We are urgent about creating opportunity now. But we also have to keep our eyes on the future, which is very easy to do when you've got 5 kids making a mess in your house. Look, how we treat our young people, how we improve their schools, how we prioritize programs for them. It says a lot about who we are as a city. And it certainly says a lot about how far we can go. So together we created a sports and rec department. And all summer long, we had over 1,300 kids occupied in gyms. We created night gyms and neighborhood rec leagues. We had our swimming pools packed like we haven't seen them in years this summer. We also this year set an ambitious goal in dealing with disconnected youth. As some of you may remember, a few years ago, the Dalio Foundation released a report saying that 53% of Hartford's youth were disconnected or at risk of becoming disconnected. And we set a goal this year, working with our Hartford Youth Opportunity Youth Collaborative, to cut that number in half over the next 5 years by bringing together all of our youth-serving nonprofits to ensure that not a single young person slips beneath the cracks. And then it's not it. We're working on building a brighter future for all of our children starting at birth. Quality, affordable childcare is out of reach for far too many families. Only 38% of our families with children ages 0 to 3 are currently being served by the existing childcare slots in our city. And I know firsthand what a strain this can put on families. Investing in childcare is one of the best investments we can make as a society. When kids have access to high quality childcare, it positively impacts their intellectual and social abilities and sets them up for success in adulthood. Studies show that the public save 7 times their original investment per child. It pays off at a rate of $7.16 for every dollar the public invests. Failing to make investment in our young people, if we don't invest in our young people, we end up paying far more in the long run. And now, thanks to Governor Lamont's early childhood initiatives, we have an opportunity to chart a new path for the city of Hartford. And so I'm proud to announce today for the first time that we're working with our partners at the state to make Hartford the very first city in the state of Connecticut to offer universal childcare in the coming years. It won't happen overnight, but our Department of Children, Families, Youth, and the Mayor's administration are committed to making this a goal in the coming years. Getting this done will create incredible opportunities for all of our young people. And we know that they can't end with early childhood. Some of you have seen the news and have seen conversations around the board like that. I had a really good conversation with the superintendent over the weekend. And let me say this, read the top lines, you know that the city can't pay for this out of our rainy day fund, which we've saved 10 years, cut salaries, positions, and seen firefighters and public works employees go without raises, failed to invest in roads and infrastructure in the way we'd like to in the city. You know that we can't pay for it with taxes. 26% tax increase on our residents would be unsustainable. And so we've got to work together to find a solution out for the state. And it may require more accountability and transparency than we've had in the past. But superintendent and I committed to each other that we would try to do that collaboratively in the days and weeks ahead. And I appreciate that commitment. Now let's talk about somebody that needs to be held accountable, a group of people that need to be held accountable. Bad landlords in the city. I want to talk to you for a moment about the rising cost of housing because it is hurting our families so much. Too many families can't afford the cost of housing, and too many of our families are in substandard housing with landlords who live out of state and fail to make the investments they need. And so when I came into office, I created a problem landlords task force. And then we created a problem landlords list. And I named the landlords who were causing the most harm in our city and brought with it real accountability and focused enforcement on those landlords. And what we saw was real success. Within just 1 year, 92% of the units owned by the landlords we named had either transferred ownership or were in process of being fixed up. That's incredible progress. And so last December, we announced our second problem landlords list. We talked about the stats from our first one. And we also announced that we'd be working more closely with the state's attorney to tee up divorced landlords for criminal prosecution to ensure they know that they cannot get away with it here in the city of Hartford.
Yes.
I'll tell you what happened. Within 3 hours, one of the biggest landlords on that list called up our staff and asked, he was panicked. He asked, what can I do to make sure I'm off this list next time? And started to get to work on fixing up his properties. It shows what we can do when we refuse to accept the status quo, when we go to battle for the most vulnerable of our residents each and every day. We also know we have to build quality, affordable housing for all of our residents to meet the urgency of the moment. It'll take an all-out effort. But believe me when I say that no city will work more aggressively or innovatively than the city of Hartford to meet the moment. It starts with utilizing the land that city already owns. Last summer, I created a vacant lots task force. And over the last several months, we've been working collaboratively across city departments and within community groups to pinpoint where we can take lots that have sat in the city's books for decades and turn them into home ownership opportunities to build generational wealth for our residents. Then, in partnership with Governor Lamont, we launched a $4 million pilot program, the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act, which will take those vacant lots, couple them with local developers, and build home ownership for residents at 120% of area median income and below. Over the coming years, we're going to turn vacant, empty lots that have been sources of blight and crime into sources of generational wealth creation and home ownership for our residents in our neighborhoods. And we believe that all residents should be able to achieve the dream of home ownership. So we're exploring groundbreaking ways to expand that dream here in Hartford. We're working to develop a rent-to-own model that'll allow for renters to turn their monthly rent into equity after 15 years so they can own a condo. We're also working to make Section 8 vouchers available for mortgage payments. It's generating historic opportunities for Section 8 voucher holders in this city. Taken together, these two initiatives will allow more renters to gain control of their housing futures and to build wealth for generations of Hartford residents to come. We're also working to turn more of our vacant commercial buildings into housing for our residents and building housing over the sea of surface parking lots that have left our south end and north end disconnected from our downtown for decades. But none of this is possible if we don't make it easier to get shovels in the ground. And so in the course of this administration, we've worked to cut permit times by more than half in the city and are working to speed up the plan review process. We know that building more housing is the best way to make housing affordable to all. And we don't want to let red tape get in the way because we've got to get it done now. So let me say this in closing. While Washington is overrun by chaos, it's up to cities like Hartford to lead by example. And honestly, what better city than the city of Hartford to lead the way? You may hear our goals in this administration to build quality housing for all, to create brighter futures for all of our children, to make all of our neighborhoods stronger and safer. You may hear those and think it's an audacious goal. Some may look at the divisiveness of this time and the challenges we face as a city and encourage us to temper our expectations. But I refuse to stop believing in Hartford. This year, we're approaching our nation's 250th anniversary. And I'm reminded often that for 250 years of this nation's history, and for 400 years of this city's history, this has been a great American city. We have done the impossible time and time again in Hartford. We're the first city with all electric streetlights. We were the first city to mass produce bicycles. We're the first city to mass produce an electric car about 100 years before Elon Musk did. We're the city that Mark Twain moved to and the city that gave birth to J.P. Morgan, Katharine Hepburn. But to me, it's not our history that defines us, but that makes us great. It's our present. Even in the midst of the chaos of today, take a moment to look around this room. There's a collection of different people with different viewpoints, different lived experiences. But we all share a deep and abiding love for this city. And we all share an ability to do great things if we can work together. So no matter what you see out of Washington, I hope that when you look at the city of Hartford, you see a city full of promise and hope. A city that can build beauty in the midst of pain. A city that can build community in the midst of chaos. A city that can do the impossible when we work together. Because if we can fight together, then we can heal together. We can walk together. We can dream together. We can soar together. And if we can do all that, Hartford, there's nothing that we can't do. So I am so proud to be your mayor. God bless you all. God bless the city of Hartford. Good night.